The stars had always been a source of wonder for humanity. Children looked up at the night sky and dreamed of distant worlds. Scientists spent their lives searching for signs of life beyond Earth. Everyone wanted to know if humans were alone in the universe. On a cold December night, they got their answer. And it was not the answer anyone had hoped for. Colony Station Horizon floated at the edge of the solar system. It was a small outpost with 53 people living and working inside its metal walls. These were miners, engineers, and researchers. They had families back on Earth. They had dreams and plans for the future. Commander Drake Morrison was sleeping in his quarters on Earth's main military base when his phone rang. The voice on the other end was shaking. "Sir, we lost contact with Horizon. All of it. Every signal is gone." Drake was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the military for 30 years. He had seen many terrible things, but nothing had prepared him for what he would see next. Within hours, a rescue ship reached the station. The footage they sent back made Drake's blood run cold. The station was empty. Every single person was gone. There were no bodies. There was no blood. The lights still worked. The machines still hummed. Food sat half-eaten on tables. It was as if everyone had simply vanished in the middle of their normal day. But there were marks. Deep claw marks scratched into the metal walls. They were not made by any animal from Earth. They were too big, too deep, too strange. Lieutenant Emma Price was the first person to study the footage carefully. She was young, only 28 years old, but she had a sharp mind. She noticed things that others missed. "Look at this," she said, pointing at her screen. Admiral James Reed stood behind her, watching closely. The footage showed the station's hallway camera. For a moment, there was nothing. Then a shadow moved. It was fast, almost too fast to see. But Emma slowed it down. The creature was enormous. It stood over 8 feet tall. Its body was covered in dark scales that seemed to drink in the light. Its eyes glowed with a faint red color. It moved like a predator, smooth and silent, each step careful and precise. "There's more," Emma said. She switched to another camera dot. This footage showed 6 of these creatures walking through the station. They carried long weapons that looked like spears. They moved together like a hunting pack. One of them grabbed a screaming woman and threw her over its shoulder like she weighed nothing. Admiral Reed felt sick. He was 60 years old and had commanded Earth's defense fleet for a decade. He had planned for many threats: asteroids, enemy nations, terrorists, but aliens? Real, actual aliens that hunted humans like animals? "Get everyone together," he said quietly. "Every military leader, every scientist, everyone who matters. We need to meet now." The meeting happened in an underground bunker. The room was full of the most powerful people on Earth: presidents, generals, scientists. They all watched the footage in complete silence. When the lights came back on, nobody spoke. What could anyone say? Then Dr. Kate Sullivan stood up. She was a small woman with glasses and messy brown hair. She studied alien life, even though until today, there had been no alien life to study. "There's something else," she said. "Something the rescue team found on the station wall." She showed them a picture. Carved deep into the metal was a message. It was written in 17 different Earth languages. Every major language that humans spoke was there. The message said, "You are prey. We are the wreck. Running only makes the hunt sweeter." The room exploded with voices. Some people shouted in anger. Others argued about what to do. A few just sat there, too shocked to speak. Colonel Ryan Mitchell stood in the corner, watching everything. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke in meetings, but his mind was working faster than anyone else in the room. The aliens called themselves the wreck. They had learned human languages, They knew where Earth was. They had taken 53 people without firing a single shot that anyone heard. This was not random. This was planned. These creatures were hunters, and they had chosen humanity as their next target. "Quiet!" Admiral Reed shouted. The room fell silent. "Panic will not help us. We need information. We need to know what we are dealing with." Over the next few weeks, humanity learned the truth. It came from fragments of alien technology left behind. It came from signals they intercepted in deep space. It came from the terrified message of a dying man who had hidden on the horizon and survived, just long enough to record what he saw. The Vrek were an empire. They had conquered 47 different species across the galaxy. But they did not conquer like humans understood conquest. They did not want land or resources or power. They wanted to hunt. Every species they found became their prey. They tracked them. They studied them. They learned their weaknesses. And then they hunted them for sport. It was their religion, their culture, their entire reason for existing. The strong hunted the weak. That was the only law the Vrek followed. And now they had found Earth, a planet full of 7 billion soft, slow, weak creatures who had never even seen an alien before. To the Vrek, humanity was nothing more than a new animal to chase through the forest. Commander Drake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, looking down at the blue planet below. Somewhere out there in the darkness, alien ships were coming. Creatures that saw humans as nothing more than prey were sharpening their claws. He thought about his daughter. She was 12 years old. She liked to read books and play soccer. She had no idea that monsters were real, and they were coming for her world. "We have to fight," he said to himself. "We have to find a way." He did not know how yet. The enemy was stronger, faster, and had technology far beyond anything humans had built. The situation seemed hopeless, but Drake had studied history. He knew that humans had faced impossible situations before. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. Every time the world tried to destroy humanity, people found a way to survive. The Vrek thought they were hunting animals. They had no idea what humans really were. They did not understand that the creatures on that little blue planet had spent their entire history fighting, surviving, and refusing to die. The hunt had begun. But the Vrek had made a terrible mistake. They had picked the wrong prey. The attacks came faster than anyone expected. Within 1 month, 3 more human colonies fell silent. The pattern was always the same. The Vrek came at night. They moved through the darkness like ghosts. They took everyone alive. At first, nobody understood why they kept their victims breathing. The answer came from a place called Theta Moon, a small rock orbiting a gas giant 12 light years from Earth. Captain Daniel Cooper was a soldier who had spent his life preparing for war. He was 35 years old, with a scar across his jaw from a training accident. He had never been afraid of anything. But when he saw the footage from Theta Moon, his hands started to shake. The Vrek had built a hunting reserve. It was a massive area of alien jungle surrounded by walls. Inside, human prisoners were released like rabbits. They were given a small head start. Then the Vrek hunters came after them with spears and claws. The footage showed everything. Men and women running through strange trees, screaming for help that would never come. Vrek hunters moving through the shadows, taking their time, enjoying the fear of their prey. Bodies hanging from branches like trophies. It was not war. It was sport, entertainment, a game that the Vrek played with living people. Admiral Reed authorized a rescue mission. It was dangerous. It was probably suicide. But they could not leave their people to die like animals in a cage. Captain Cooper volunteered to lead the team. He picked 11 of the best soldiers he knew. They loaded into a fast ship and made the jump to Theta Moon. The mission was simple: Get in, find survivors, get out. Nothing about it was actually simple. Cooper and his team landed at night. The alien jungle was thick and dark. Strange sounds filled the air. The trees had blue leaves that glowed faintly in the darkness. Everything smelled wrong, like chemicals and rotting meat. They found the first body within an hour. It was a young man, maybe 20 years old. He had been running when something caught him. Cooper did not look too closely at what was left. "Keep moving," he whispered to his team. "Stay quiet." The wreck hunted using heat vision. They could see body temperature through walls and trees. Human soldiers learned this the hard way when 3 of Cooper's team died in an ambush they never saw coming. The aliens came from nowhere. One moment the jungle was quiet. The next moment, a wreck hunter dropped from the trees and drove a spear through Private Mike Taylor's chest. 2 more soldiers died before anyone could fire a shot. Cooper shot the alien in the head. It took 4 bullets to bring it down. 4 bullets to kill one creature. They kept moving. They found a group of survivors hiding in a cave. 8 people, starving and terrified, covered in dirt and blood. Among them was a woman named Dr. Kate Sullivan. Kate was a scientist who had been captured 3 weeks earlier. Unlike the others, she had not just hidden and waited for death. She had watched. She had learned. "They think we are animals," she whispered to Cooper as they moved through the jungle. "They have never met a species that fights back. Not really fights back. Every other species they hunted just ran and died. They do not understand war." Cooper listened carefully. This woman had survived 3 weeks in an alien hunting ground. She was tougher than she looked. "They have a weakness," Kate continued. "They rely completely on thermal vision. They cannot imagine a prey that would hide its heat or use decoys. It never occurred to them that food might try to trick them." The escape cost 4 more soldiers. By the time they reached the ship, only Cooper and 3 others were still alive, along with the 8 survivors. Back on Earth, Kate's information spread through the military like fire. For the first time, humanity had real intelligence about their enemy. And that intelligence revealed something important. The wreck were not gods. They were not unbeatable. They were hunters who had never faced a real challenge. Colonel Ryan Mitchell started planning immediately. He gathered the best engineers, the best scientists, and the best soldiers on Earth. They had one job: turn humanity from prey into predator. The first step was understanding how wreck thermal vision worked. Human bodies produced heat, and the aliens could see that heat like humans could see light. It made hiding almost impossible. Engineers worked day and night. Within 2 weeks, they had created the first thermal masking suit. It was uncomfortable and expensive, but it worked. A person wearing the suit became invisible to wreck eyes. Next came the decoys. Small machines that produced human-level body heat. Drop one in a forest, and every wreck hunter within a mile would chase after it, never knowing it was a trap. Finally, there were the weapons. Normal bullets worked against the wreck, but their scales were thick. It took too many shots to bring one down. Scientists studied the dead alien Cooper had brought back and found weak points. The joints. The throat. The eyes. New ammunition was designed. Soldiers trained to aim for those specific spots. The killing time dropped from 4 seconds to less than 1. Sergeant Lisa Chun was put in charge of training. She was a small woman with cold eyes and a voice like a drill instructor. She had lost her brother in the Horizon attack. She had a personal reason to make sure every soldier under her command became a perfect killing machine. The wreck think they are hunters, she told her troops on the first day of training. They have hunted 47 species to extinction. They believe they are the top predators in the galaxy. She smiled. It was not a friendly smile. They have never met humans. They do not know that we spent 10,000 years hunting each other. We invented war. We perfected killing. Every weapon, every tactic, every dirty trick you can imagine, we created it first. The soldiers listened. They were scared. They had seen the footage of what the wreck did to prisoners. But fear could become anger. And anger could become something the aliens would never expect. The first real test came 6 weeks later. A wreck hunting party landed in the Rocky Mountains of North America. 30 hunters, looking for easy prey. They found something else entirely. Private Tom Harris was 22 years old. He had grown up in those mountains. He knew every valley, every cliff, every cave. He was part of the first human counter-predator unit, trained by Sergeant Chun herself. Tom and his squad waited in the snow. Their thermal suits made them invisible. Heat decoys glowed in the valley below, drawing the wreck hunters forward. The aliens moved with confidence. They had done this 1,000 times before. The prey always ran. The prey always died. The first hunter stepped on a mine. The explosion took off its legs. Before the others could react, gunfire erupted from every direction. Soldiers appeared from rocks and trees, firing at joints and throats and eyes. The wreck tried to fight back. They were still faster and stronger than any human. But they could not see their enemies. They could not understand what was happening. For the first time in their history, they were the ones being hunted. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it was over, 29 wreck hunters lay dead in the snow. One escaped badly wounded and fled to his ship. Colonel Mitchell watched the after-action report with a grim satisfaction. The survivor would return to the wreck empire and tell them what had happened. They would not believe him. They would think he was a coward who ran from prey. That was fine. Let them underestimate humanity. Let them keep thinking they were dealing with animals. Tom Harris stood over the body of a dead wreck hunter. The creature was huge, even in death. Its claws were longer than kitchen knives. Its teeth could bite through bone, but it was dead. A human had killed it. A human had won. Tom felt something change inside him. The fear was still there, but it was smaller now. In its place was something new, something dangerous. Hope, and hunger for revenge. The wreck had started this hunt, but they would not be the ones to finish it. The wounded wreck hunter who escaped the Rocky Mountain massacre returned to his commanders with a warning. He told them about the invisible humans. He told them about the traps and tricks. He told them that the prey had somehow learned to fight back. His commanders laughed at him. They called him a coward. They said he had lost his mind. In all their history, no prey species had ever truly resisted. Every creature they hunted eventually ran, hid, and died. That was the natural order of things. The hunter was executed for dishonoring the Empire. His warning died with him. On Earth, humanity was not wasting time. Dr. Kate Sullivan worked around the clock in a secret laboratory deep underground. She had brought back pieces of wreck technology from Theta Moon. She had studied their biology. She had learned their language from recordings. Now she understood them better than anyone alive. Their entire culture is based on one idea, she explained to General Marcus Taylor. The strong hunt the weak. That is their religion, their law, their identity. They have conquered 47 species, and every single one reacted the same way. They ran, they hid, they begged for mercy. General Taylor was a large man with a bald head and sharp eyes. He had spent his career preparing for impossible wars. Now he was fighting one. So they have never seen anything different, he said slowly. Never, Kate confirmed. They cannot even imagine it. Their brains are not built for it. When we fought back in the mountains, that survivor probably could not process what he was seeing. To him, it would be like watching water flow uphill. Impossible. This was humanity's greatest weapon. Not guns or bombs, but surprise. The wreck expected prey to act like prey. When humans acted differently, the aliens literally could not understand what was happening. General Taylor authorized Project Nightfall. It was the largest military training program in human history. Soldiers from every country were gathered, trained, and equipped with thermal masking suits and new weapons. But weapons were only part of the plan. Sergeant Lisa Chun developed something more dangerous: psychological warfare. Animals do not plan, she taught her soldiers. Animals do not set traps or coordinate attacks. Animals do not seek revenge. We are going to show the wreck something their victims have never shown them before. We are going to show them fear. The training was brutal. Soldiers learned to move in complete silence. They learned to set complex ambush that would confuse and terrify their targets. They learned to leave survivors on purpose, so those survivors could spread fear among the enemy. Private Tom Harris became one of the best students. After his first battle in the mountains, something had changed inside him. He was no longer afraid of the wreck. He hated them. He thought about the footage from Theta Moon. He thought about people being hunted like deer. He thought about his friends who had died in the colonies. That hate made him sharp. It made him patient. It made him exactly what the wreck would never expect. 3 months after the first successful battle, the wreck sent a larger hunting party. 100 hunters this time, landing in the forests of Germany. They were going to find out what had happened to their previous group. Commander Drake Morrison coordinated the defense from orbit. He had changed in the months since Horizon. The tired old soldier was gone. In his place was something harder. Something that had accepted the reality of this war. All units in position, Lieutenant Emma Price reported. She had left her desk job to join the fight. If she was going to study these aliens, she wanted to do it on the battlefield. The wreck hunters spread through the forest. They moved in their usual pattern, confident and slow. Their thermal vision scanned for prey. They found nothing. The forest seemed empty. This confused them. Their scouts had reported human settlements nearby. Where were all the creatures hiding? The first trap triggered at midnight. A heat signature appeared in a clearing. 3 hunters moved to investigate. When they reached the spot, they found only a small machine glowing with fake warmth. Before they could understand, sniper fire came from 5 different directions. All 3 hunters fell with bullets in their throats. The other wreck heard the shots. They moved toward the sound. More heat signatures appeared. More traps. More ambush. Tom Harris watched from his hiding spot as a group of hunters walked directly beneath his tree. His thermal suit made him completely invisible. He could see them perfectly through his night vision goggles. He waited until they passed. Then he dropped behind the last one and drove a knife into the weak point behind its skull. The creature fell without a sound. By morning, 60 wreck hunters were dead. The survivors had broken into small groups, confused and disoriented. They no longer moved like confident predators. They moved like frightened animals. Emma Price studied the footage later. She noticed something remarkable. Look at their body language, she said. They are displaying stress behaviors we have never recorded before. Constant looking over shoulders. Hesitation before entering open areas. Tight grouping for protection. She looked up from her screen with wonder in her eyes. They are scared. For the first time in their history, the wreck are scared. The survivors retreated to their ships and fled back to space. This time, there were too many witnesses to silence. The reports reached the Wreck High Council. The council was composed of the greatest hunters in the Empire. They had killed more prey than any others. They wore trophies from 47 different species. When they heard the reports from Earth, they were angry. Not worried, angry. Impossible, said the Supreme Hunter. Prey cannot fight. Prey cannot think. These reports must be lies. But the reports kept coming. Another group lost in Canada. A hunting party massacred in Japan. Ships damaged by weapons that the prey should not possess. The Supreme Hunter made a decision. If the humans wanted to pretend they were predators, the Vrek would teach them the truth. They would send not a hunting party, but an army. They would burn the human cities. They would hunt every single human until none remained. This would not be sport anymore. This would be extermination. Back on Earth, Colonel Ryan Mitchell received intelligence about the coming invasion. 200 warships, 50,000 hunters. Enough force to conquer 100 worlds. He gathered his commanders in the war room. The news was grim. Humanity had won small battles, but they could not fight a full Vrek fleet. We cannot beat them in a straight fight, Mitchell admitted. Their ships are faster. Their hunters are stronger. If we try to match them, we will lose. The room was silent. Everyone knew he was right. Then Tom Harris spoke. He was just a private barely allowed in this meeting. But the generals had started listening to the soldiers who had actually fought the Vrek. So we do not fight straight, Tom said. We have been training for months to be something the Vrek cannot understand. Let them come. Let them land their armies. And then let us show them what humans really are. Colonel Mitchell nodded slowly. The boy was right. Humanity could not win as soldiers, but they might win as something else. Predators who refuse to follow the rules. Contact every nation, Mitchell ordered. Every military, every militia, every person who can hold a weapon. If the Vrek want to invade Earth, they will find out that every city, every forest, every inch of this planet is a trap waiting to be triggered. The preparations began immediately. Cities were turned into mazes of ambush points. Weapons were hidden everywhere. Civilians were trained in basic combat and survival. Earth was becoming something new. Not a planet of prey waiting to be hunted. A planet-sized trap waiting to swallow the hunters whole. The Vrek fleet launched toward Earth. 50,000 hunters, ready for the greatest hunt in their history. They expected easy prey. They expected fear and running and begging. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Humanity was done running. Humanity was done hiding. Now it was time for the hunters to learn what it felt like to become the hunted. The Vrek fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning. 200 warships blocked out the sun as they entered Earth's orbit. 50,000 hunters prepared for the greatest hunt in the history of their empire. The Supreme Hunter stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet below. He had killed more prey than any Vrek alive. He wore trophies from 30 different species around his neck. To him, Earth was nothing special. Just another hunting ground. Begin the landings, he ordered. Let the hunt commence. Drop ships fell from the sky like rain. They landed on every continent, carrying thousands of hunters each. The Vrek expected terrified prey running through the streets. They expected easy kills and quick victory. What they found was something else entirely. In New York City, a group of 50 hunters entered Times Square. The buildings were dark. The streets were empty. It looked like all the humans had fled. The hunters spread out, scanning for heat signatures. They found nothing. Strange. Where were all the prey? Then the first bullet came. One hunter fell, shot through the throat. The others spun around, searching for the attacker. More bullets came from different directions. 3 more hunters dropped. They could not see the shooters. Their thermal vision showed empty buildings. The bullets kept coming from everywhere and nowhere. Above them, snipers wearing thermal suits watched from windows. They fired, moved, fired again. The Vrek hunters ran in circles, shooting at shadows that did not exist. By the time backup arrived, 40 hunters were dead. The survivors were shaking. This pattern repeated across the planet. In Tokyo, hunters walked into a subway station and never came out. In London, an entire group vanished in the fog. found days later with their throats cut. In Cairo, hunters chased heat signatures into buildings that collapsed on top of them. Major Jack Wilson coordinated the global resistance from a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens surrounded him, showing feeds from every battlefield on Earth. Report from Moscow, an aide called out. 300 enemy killed, 12 human casualties. Sydney just took out a landing ship, another voice said. Used a mine buried under the runway. Jack nodded grimly. The plan was working. Humanity was not trying to defeat the Vrek army. They were trying to bleed it, cut by cut, death by death. But 50,000 was a large number. No matter how many they killed, more kept coming. Admiral James Reed knew they needed something bigger. A single victory that would shake the entire invasion. Commander Amy Foster was the answer. Amy was 40 years old, with short, gray hair and a face that never showed emotion. She had spent 20 years in special operations. She had done things that were not in any official record. She was exactly the right person for an impossible mission. Her target was the Vrek flagship. The Supreme Hunter controls everything from that ship, Dr. Kate Sullivan explained during the briefing. Kill him, destroy the flagship, and the invasion loses its head. Vrek culture requires a leader. Without one, they will fall into chaos. Amy studied the ship layouts Kate had reconstructed from captured data. The flagship was massive, built for war, filled with thousands of crew members. How do we get inside? She asked. Kate smiled. I have an idea about that. 3 days later, a small human ship approached the flagship, broadcasting surrender signals. It claimed to carry important prisoners, willing to give information in exchange for mercy. The Vrek let them dock. They were curious. No species had ever tried to negotiate before. Perhaps these humans were finally learning their place. The docking bay doors opened. 20 Vrek guards stood ready to receive the prisoners. Amy Foster stepped off the ship with her hands raised. Behind her were 4 other humans, looking scared and defeated. The guards moved forward. Their thermal vision showed 5 warm bodies. No weapons, no threat. They did not see the 6th person. Private Tom Harris lay flat on the floor of the human ship, wrapped in a thermal blanket that made him invisible. He waited until the guards passed, then slipped out behind them. Inside the flagship, Amy and her team were escorted toward the Supreme Hunter's chambers. The guards did not notice when one human fell behind and disappeared into a side corridor. Lieutenant Emma Price had spent months studying Vrek ship designs. She moved through the maintenance tunnels like she had lived there her whole life. Her target was the reactor core. Meanwhile, Amy was brought before the Supreme Hunter himself. He was the largest Vrek she had ever seen. Nearly 9 feet tall, covered in scars from 1,000 hunts. His eyes glowed like hot coals as he looked down at the small human woman. "You wish to surrender," he said in broken English. The Vrek had learned human languages long ago. "Yes," Amy said quietly. She kept her eyes down, playing the role of defeated prey. "Tell me about your defenses. Where are your leaders hiding?" Amy gave him false information, lies mixed with just enough truth to sound real. The Supreme Hunter listened, pleased. Finally, the prey was behaving properly. He did not notice the small device Amy dropped on the floor. He did not see Tom Harris moving through the shadows behind his throne. He did not know that Emma Price had just reached the reactor room and was placing charges around the core. "When will you attack our cities?" Amy asked, buying time. The Supreme Hunter laughed. "Soon. We will burn your world and mount your skulls on our walls. You will be remembered as the prey that dared to fight back. A curiosity, nothing more." Amy looked up at him. For the first time, she let him see her real expression. She was smiling. "You know what the difference is between you and us?" She asked. The Supreme Hunter frowned. This was not how prey spoke. You hunt because you enjoy it, Amy said. We fight because we have something to protect. Our families. Our children. Our future. You cannot understand that. You do not know what it means to love something so much that you would die for it. She pressed a button hidden in her sleeve. Below, the reactor exploded. The flagship shook violently. Alarm screamed. Fire erupted from a dozen different sections. The Supreme Hunter stumbled, caught off guard. Tom Harris burst from the shadows. His knife found the gap in the hunter's armor. Once, twice, 3 times. The greatest hunter in the Wreck Empire fell to his knees, staring at the tiny human who had just killed him. Impossible, he whispered. No, Tom said coldly. Inevitable. Amy and her team ran for their ship. The flagship was dying, explosions spreading through every deck. Thousands of wreck crew members tried to escape, but there was nowhere to go. Their small ship launched just as the flagship broke apart. Admiral Reed watched from Earth's orbit as the enemy command vessel exploded into 1,000,000 pieces. The wreck fleet went silent. Without their Supreme Hunter, without orders, they did not know what to do. Their culture had no word for defeat. They had no plan for what happened when the hunt went wrong. On Earth, the human resistance attacked with everything they had. Major Wilson coordinated strikes on every landing zone. Armies that had been hiding emerged from tunnels and bunkers. Captain Daniel Cooper led the ground assault on the largest wreck base in North America. He had survived Theta Moon. He had rescued survivors from alien hunting grounds. Now he was leading an army to push the invaders off his planet. The battle lasted 2 days. When it was over, the wreck base was a smoking ruin. Thousands of alien bodies lay in the dirt. Cooper walked through the destruction, rifle in hand. He found a wreck commander hiding in a collapsed building, wounded and alone. Your people came here to hunt us, Cooper said. How does it feel to be the prey? The alien stared at him with something like fear, an emotion no wreck had ever felt before. Around the world, the story was the same. Wreck forces broke and ran. Ships fled toward space, chased by human weapons. The greatest hunting party in galactic history had become a slaughter. Colonel Mitchell watched the reports come in from the war room. Victory was within reach. But his eyes were already looking beyond Earth, toward the stars. The wreck had started this war. Humanity was going to finish it. Not on Earth, on the wreck homeworlds themselves. It was time to show the galaxy what happened when you tried to hunt humanity. The wreck empire was in chaos. Their supreme hunter was dead. Their invasion fleet had been destroyed. For the first time in their long history, they had been defeated by prey. In their council chambers on the wreck homeworld, the remaining leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to send more fleets. Others wanted to retreat and rebuild. A few suggested something that had never been considered before. Peace. But the wreck did not understand peace. Their entire culture was built on hunting. They could not imagine a universe where they were not the top predators. They could not accept that a small, soft species from a tiny blue planet had beaten them. So they made the worst decision possible. They decided to wait and prepare for a bigger hunt. They did not realize that humanity was not going to give them that chance. Back on Earth, Dr. Kate Sullivan led a team of scientists working on captured wreck ships. The alien technology was advanced, but not impossible to understand. Within 3 months, they had figured out how the faster-than-light drives worked. Within 6 months, they had built their own. Admiral James Reed stood on the bridge of the first human warship capable of traveling between stars. It was called the Horizon, named after the colony where humanity had first learned that monsters were real. 300 ships floated behind him. Each one was crewed by soldiers who had lost friends and family to the wreck hunts. Each one was armed with weapons designed to kill the hunters who had tried to exterminate their species. This was not an invasion fleet. It was a rescue mission. And a message. Lieutenant Emma Price sat at the navigation station. She had mapped every wreck system using data from captured vessels. She knew where the hunting reserves were. She knew where 47 species were still being held as prey. Jump coordinates locked, she reported. Reed took a deep breath. All ships, prepare for jump. We are going to show the galaxy that humanity protects its own. And now everyone is our own. The fleet vanished in a flash of light. They emerged in the Theta system, where human prisoners had once been hunted for sport. The wreck defense fleet was small here. They had never expected prey to come looking for revenge. Commander Drake Morrison led the assault. He was not the same man who had answered that first distress call years ago. The tired gray commander was gone. In his place was something forged in war. All ships, engage, he ordered. The battle lasted 2 hours. Wreck ships were powerful, but they had been built for hunting, not fighting. Human warships were designed for war by a species that had spent its entire history fighting itself. When the shooting stopped, the wreck defense fleet was debris. Human troops landed on the hunting moons. Captain Daniel Cooper led his soldiers through the alien jungles. But this time, he was not searching for survivors to rescue. He was liberating an entire world. They found the prey species first. Creatures that look nothing like humans. Some had 4 legs. Some had wings. Some communicated through colors instead of sounds. But they all had the same look in their eyes. Fear that slowly transformed into wonder. You came, one of them said through a translator. Prey does not come back. Prey does not fight. Cooper knelt down to look the creature in the eye. We are not prey. We are human. And we are going to free every single person the wreck ever took. Over the next year, humanity struck at wreck hunting reserves across the galaxy. Each assault followed the same pattern. Destroy the defenders. Free the prisoners. Leave a message that the wreck would never forget. Private Tom Harris. Now Sergeant Tom Harris led some of the most dangerous missions. He had become something of a legend among the soldiers. The man who had killed the Supreme Hunter. The prey that bit back hardest. On one mission, he found himself facing a young wreck warrior. The alien was barely grown, probably on his first hunt. He stared at Tom with confusion rather than fear. Why? The young wreck asked. Why do you fight so hard? You are small. You are weak. You should accept your place. Tom thought about the question. He thought about Earth, about his family, about the people who had died in those first attacks. Because we love each other, he said. You hunt because it is in your nature. We fight because we cannot stand to see the people we care about suffer. Every person your empire took, we feel their pain. And we will never stop until they are all free. The young wreck did not understand. He could not understand. His species had never developed a concept of love that transcended survival. Tom let him go. Maybe someday, the wreck would learn. The final battle took place above the wreck homeworld itself. The Empire had gathered every remaining ship to defend their capital. They still believed they could win. Admiral Reed looked at the enemy fleet. It was impressive. Thousands of ships. Millions of hunters ready to fight for their way of life. He opened a channel to broadcast across all frequencies. People of the wreck empire, he said. We did not ask for this war. We were living peacefully on our small planet when you came to hunt us. You killed our people. You took our families. You treated us like animals to be slaughtered. The wreck fleet was silent. We could destroy you, Reed continued. We have that power now. But that is not why we came. We came to deliver a message. General Marcus Taylor stood beside the Admiral, watching the enemy ships. His finger was on the button that would launch their weapons. We are not predators, Reed said. We are not prey. We are humanity, and we protect our own. Every species you ever hunted is now under our protection. Every world you ever claimed is now free." He paused, letting the words sink in across 1,000 wreck ships. "This is your one chance. Stop hunting. Stop killing. Learn to live differently. Or we will return. And next time, we will not offer peace." The wreck fleet hesitated. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then, slowly ships began to turn away. One by one, then dozens, then hundreds. They were retreating. Colonel Ryan Mitchell watched from the bridge of the horizon. His war was ending, not with a final battle, but with something he had never expected. Surrender. In the weeks that followed, the wreck empire crumbled. Without their hunting culture, they did not know what to do. Some colonies collapsed into chaos. Others, slowly, began to change. The species humanity had freed formed a new alliance. They called it the Protected Worlds. At its center was Earth, the planet of prey that had become the guardian of an entire galaxy. Dr. Kate Sullivan spent her remaining years teaching wreck children about other ways to live. It was slow work. Some never learned. But others, the young ones who had never hunted, began to understand that there was more to life than being a predator. Sergeant Lisa Chun trained soldiers from 100 different species. Her students came from worlds the wreck had nearly destroyed. She taught them to fight, yes, but also to protect. Captain Cooper retired to a small farm on Earth. He grew vegetables and watched the stars at night. Sometimes, ships from the protected worlds would pass overhead, and he would smile. Commander Morrison wrote a book about the war. He wanted future generations to understand what had happened, how humanity had faced extinction and chosen to fight instead of die. Private Tom Harris never stopped serving. He led humanitarian missions to recovering worlds. He helped rebuild civilizations that had been shattered. He became a symbol of what humanity could be at its best. On the anniversary of the first attack, a ceremony was held at the site of Colony Station Horizon. It had been rebuilt, not as a mining outpost, but as a memorial. Admiral Reed stood before a crowd of humans and aliens alike. Behind him, the names of everyone who had died were carved into a wall of black stone. "We did not win this war because we were stronger," he said. "We did not win because we were smarter or more advanced. We won because we refused to accept the role they gave us." He looked at the names on the wall. 53 people who had died in the first attack. Thousands more who had fallen in the years since. They called us prey. They thought we would run and hide and die like all the others. But they did not understand something fundamental about humanity. He turned to face the crowd. "We protect each other. We fight for each other. We love each other. And that love makes us stronger than any predator could ever be." Colonel Mitchell stood at the back of the crowd, watching. Beside him was Sergeant Chun and Captain Cooper and all the others who fought in the war. The galaxy had learned an ancient truth that day. Humanity was not dangerous because of technology or weapons or military might. They were dangerous because they never stopped fighting for the people they loved. The stars looked different now. Once they had been a source of fear. Now they were a promise. Wherever there was suffering, wherever the weak were being hunted by the strong, humanity would be there. Not as predators, not as prey. As protectors, and the galaxy would never be the same.